This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
Not want to be confused by facts. Years of mandatory busing of black children to white schools in order to achieve racial integration was the logical corollary of what Chief Justice Warren had said, though the Brown v. Board of Education decision did not itself prescribe mandatory busing. The busing crusade produced heated controversies, bitter racial polarization, and dangerous confrontations in the streets, with school children caught in the middle of it all, but little, if any, net benefit to the educational levels of black children. Eventually, the busing crusade faded in futility, but something very different later appeared on the horizon. The idea that low-income parents should be allowed to choose where their children went to school, just as high-income parents already could, by sending their children to private schools if the local public school was unsatisfactory. Extending choice to parents in general could be done in a variety of ways, including vouchers that could cover tuition at low-cost private schools, such as some Catholic parochial schools. That was just one option among many. There were also magnet schools, homeschooling, and tuition tax credits, for example. Eventually, one of the most strikingly successful kinds of schools that emerged from this experimentation was the charter school, a special public school freed from some of the rigidities of the regular public schools and allowed to receive government financial support only so long as its students' educational outcomes met various educational criteria. Not all charter schools turned out to be successful, just as not all traditional public schools turned out to be successful, or all failures for that matter. But particular charter schools, and especially some particular networks of charter schools, located in low-income black and Hispanic neighborhoods, achieved educational results not only far above the levels achieved by most public schools in those neighborhoods, but sometimes even higher educational results than those in most schools located in affluent white neighborhoods. No one expected that. Anyone who might have predicted such an outcome beforehand would have been considered to be hopelessly unrealistic. This story might seem to have had a happy ending, at least for that fraction of minority students attending successful charter schools. But, in fact, even the most successful charter schools have been bitterly attacked by teachers' unions, by politicians, by the civil rights establishment, and assorted others. How can success be so unwelcome? It is apparently not unwelcome to parents of low-income minority students. In New York City alone, there are more than 50,000 children on waiting lists to get into charter schools. Yet New York's mayor has announced an end to the expansion of charter schools and threatened restrictions on those already functioning. It is much the same story in California and in many other places in between. Understanding why and how educational success has been such unwelcome news to so many people and institutions is the purpose of this book. With growing political threats to charter schools across the country, the stakes could not be higher for poor and minority youngsters, for whom a good education is their biggest opportunity for a better life. That, in itself, is enough to make this a story well worth understanding by all people of goodwill, despite whatever other differences they might have. Thomas Sowell, The Hoover Institution, Stanford University. Chapter 1. Comparisons and Comparability. Depending on who you read or listen to, charter schools are either a striking success or a failed and damaging experiment, or even just fads. With all the voluminous educational statistics available, it might seem strange that such extremely different conclusions and controversies arising from these differences should exist and persist. Nevertheless, these controversies have continued to rage for years with growing intensity as charter schools have expanded from a barely noticeable part of the educational scene when they began in the 1990s to thousands of schools with millions of students today. Public charter schools are public schools.